So it's great having you here, Chris. We're welcoming Chris Patterson to our little chat room in the world. And I'm Lori Gay with Neighborhood Housing Services of LA County. And I'm with Chris Patterson, who has a super long title with HUD throughout the region. And he'll give his formal title so that I don't sound so professional and overdone. But the exciting piece is that NHS received a special designation from HUD that we want to share with you today. And we're really excited that their lead guy out here in the West where we work is here to join me and to spend a minute talking about why we do what we do and the blessings that that provides to our community. So Chris, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you.
So why don't we do some of what we do, Chris, and just before we get too deep on our designations, have you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to HUD and why you're excited about the work you do every day.
Yeah, you bet. I think the biggest thing, well, the short answer is, what brought me to HUD, obviously I'm a political appointee, but what brought me to HUD was the fact that I was attracted to obviously having such a good leader as Secretary Ben Carson, someone who understands what it's like to come from the bottom, grow up in a really rough area, come from a single mother family who raised him and his brother, and you got to compliment a man who's one of the world's best neurosurgeons,
right?
Respected and naturally just a natural born leader with compassion and heart and patience, deliverance and intention. And in today's world, you don't oftentimes see that. So I think for me,
Right.
Growing up in the foster care system and working in the field of health and human services for 25 plus years, when I had the opportunity to take this position, I did it a little different. So mine was a little more unorthodox, and I actually had 67 letters of written support from people throughout the country to the White House, and it was a bipartisan approach.
I love it.
I had Democrats and Republicans that both actually did the supports for me, whether it was Native American tribes, different groups of individuals that I knew growing up as a kid, and obviously being a success story. And that's still hard to say, even as a grown adult, being a success story in foster care. The odds happening sometimes are pretty harsh for some of the foster kids, or just kids in general, especially in rough neighborhoods. So I think for me, my passion was when I had the chance to come to HUD, I realized that what HUD does and the staff and the career folks there have very much mission-driven intentions. And they really have a focus on community and the people who reside in those communities to make their lives better, whether it's through water resources, housing, FHA, CPD, community development block grants, or so many so many acronyms and initials in HUD that you kind of get lost in the alphabet soup.
Yeah,
so
you can.
I don't want to say too many, otherwise it just makes your head spin. But obviously the ones that I think are most right now, obviously, is the Envision Center, which is why we're here today, and to know what you guys are doing there in Compton. And I love the back of the building where it's got a custom mural on the back and the license plate on the car says hustle.
That's a fun piece.
I think and the fact that it's never touched. And I think that the fact that the community respects what you guys are doing there and having the chance to meet the young kids or adults who are getting ready to, some of them going to the Job Corps and working on the USDA agricultural stuff or self-sustaining for farms, different things like that. I think that was cool. And the fact that when I saw how much heart and passion you have for your community and what you discussed about your background and your husband's background, to me, it was just an automatic kindred spirit where I felt like, okay, look, when you grow up in a real tough area, you have a really thick skin, but you have a really soft heart.
That's right. Always.
So,
and let me just say, Chris, being a regional administrator, you could be in a lot of places, right? And the fact that you're willing to walk neighborhoods that aren't always looking so great means something, and that you'll tell your personal story about growing up in the system, so to speak. And I feel like that matters to people. It gives them a sense of achievement and what they can personally do. And so you are a success story. And I think we built the Center for Sustainable Communities in Compton. We plan to do as many more towns that'll have us. And certainly across the country, there are about 15 to 20 other groups that are considering how they build their own centers that represent sustainable communities' life in their space. But I think the thinking was simple. We know that we're stronger together. And your story, my story, matching up in tough spaces helps other people achieve. In my case, I'm a hick. I grew up in rural Northern California, being spit on and called out of my name every day. My dad was the local Black pastor. There weren't others that lived in town. They drove in from Sacramento. So Orville was, and still is, an interesting spot. But what we knew and loved was that we could spend time making a difference in a town where poverty was the lead. And so I think fast forward that 40 years and I'm still doing the work of caring for people, and it matters. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about getting to work with HUD and you and the great team that you have to make the center in Compton even better than it's been. We had some good initial partners coming in, Pacific Coast Regional, the Small Business Development Corporation folks that are all things small business like we are housing. And then we also had Metro Community Development Corporation, that is a faith-based organization led by a number of ministers who frankly are white boys that have been in Compton 30 years. I mean, come on. And they are doing the work of love and nurturing families. They're the family development and youth development organization you met when you were on site. And I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the tough work they do to care for people. And we all need love, right? And what Bob and his team do is to love people first and ask questions later. And I think if we had a little more of that going on in the world, we'd all be better for it. And so thank you. This designation means everything to NHS, and we're looking forward to partnering to do greater work in the future.
We know you guys will.
We will. You know, it's tough though. Let's talk about the pandemic a little bit. We're going to time date our stamp a little, but it's okay because it's unprecedented. What is the world for you in the midst of all these designations with the pandemic hitting us all?
I think for the midst of me, the one thing that I do hope that people will get back to when they go back to meeting people face to face, that they appreciate the fact that somebody comes to make time to spend time with them, to see what the issues they're facing, see what their challenges are, talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, talk about the realities of their world, not just the realities of the world that the person who's flew in or drove in to meet them.
Right.
Biggest thing is when you get a chance to talk to somebody face to face and you get to see how they're responding, what issues they're going through. I don't always like to just talk to generics. I want to say, hey, how's your kids doing? How's your family's doing? How's your grandparents doing? And I think oftentimes we forget that in life, in the fast-paced world, we were in very much pre-March, that we, oftentimes forget our elders, and we oftentimes forget the fact of what we're supposed to be looking at as our families. And I think, for me, maybe if there's any silver lining, which I know there is, I don't think it's all negative, that you have to look at the positive with COVID, and that is it's forcing people to look at everything. It's forcing people to look at what they have, even in the smallest minuscule thing, to be appreciative of their health, their family, what they've earned, the struggles they've faced, what they've came out through, what they've been through, what they're going through, and where their reality of the world is, and how hard they've had to get to that point. This too shall pass. Most of us remember the statement, especially in church.
Yep.
I think we all know that this is going to pass. We all know that this is something that's the stage in life that we're going to get through. But I think the biggest thing is I hope people learn to respect more of each other, regardless of political differences, regardless of backgrounds, regardless of race, creed, nationality, whatever it might be. Having grown up the way I did, I grew up with many different kids from different nationalities in foster care. None of us cared because we all knew why we were there.
That's right.
We all had issues. We all had problems. So it's the same thing in the world today. Some of us might be doing better than others, but I think with COVID, we got bigger issues to face now with the public schools closed in some states, whether it's mental health issues, how people are self-medicating with alcohol and drugs, or other things that people don't like to talk about, which you and I both know from the street. And I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of positive things out there that people are forgetting to look at. And that is the fact if somebody simply takes the time to smile at you, that's something that, you can't see right now with masks, obviously. But when those are the simple things you want to appreciate. When somebody shakes your hand, looks in your eye and says, "Hey, how you doing today?" A total stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that I look forward to getting to. And I think that the only way we're going to do that is just by continuing doing what we're doing and working with each other.
I agree. And thank you for that. Someone said to me the other day, it's something we should remember. Speak kind words.
Yeah.
Something simple. And I think it should give us a little pause with a pandemic that we don't know what's promised. We were noting in our human resources department, we've been fortunate that there hasn't been a large number of our personnel that have been diagnosed with COVID. There's some companies that can't say that, but all around them, there's loss, their family members, right? People they've known. And so we've got to be serious about this thing and know that in the communities we serve that are underserved, people of color are dying at higher rates. And there is a tone, even with that, in many communities that are not of color, that the other folks are going first, and so we don't need to wear masks. Things like that we're saying in our neighborhoods. You don't spend your time listening to other people. Protect your family. And don't spend your time being race driven all the time. Just stop it. Focus on what you got to do. Focus on what you need to do to take care of yourself so you see 2021. And the holidays are particularly tough because there's more death every year. That's normal. And so I think with the pandemic, we're seeing some of the worst of it, and they say more is coming. I really don't know. But there's things we can do to make sure that health matters. We have never talked about housing and health as synonymously as we have in the last 9 months. And so I'm grateful for that because it gives everyone a chance to focus. And I'm grateful that we've all been slowed down so that we can think about what's important and then act on it. So I don't want to miss the chance as we're talking to just say that I want to give you a chance to talk about HUD designating these Envision centers across the country and what that looks like and the meaningfulness that that has during tough times.
Yeah, well, I could start right now if you want.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I know that, this is one of the most exciting things besides all the other initiatives, but obviously this one and the Foster Youth to Independence Initiative is near and dear to my heart. So, but for this particular one with the Envision centers, that are across the United States and what this means to Secretary Carson and the HUD team, I'll probably do this a little backwards, but people like Lori Hewitt and Wayne Saceda and Angela Hong and Pauline Louie, those are the main people you deal with, you'll deal with long after I'm gone. And I think that the biggest thing is you can't do anything without a solid team. And there's 540 plus people in Region 9 that carry the weight of exactly what the mission is for HUD, and that is to support the American people in every aspect. Oftentimes people think that HUD is just housing. It's not. That's obviously a portion of it, but it's also urban development, which means that anything happens in a city, county, state jurisdiction, we're going to have our fingers in it. There's going to be some sort of rules and regulations or things that we want to do to make sure that benefits the people that are there. And sometimes those outcomes, I think the long term, it's meant to do well for the people.
Yes.
Today I'm here and I'm honored to join you to announce that HUD has designated the Neighborhood Housing Services of Los Angeles County, Compton, and as an Envision Center. Now that was really exciting. Now we've been working on this for a while. So I think Envision Centers began, if you think about it, Envision Centers began with a simple vision, and that is to unleash the potential of all the communities, going beyond, the bricks and mortar and investing in what matters the most is the people, and you can bring the people to the community. And, it makes people work to support each other. The designation of Compton's NHS Center for Sustainable Communities as an Envision Center confirms that the vision is already there. You've got it coming to life already. You've already done the ground, strengthen the city of Compton and the community. Envision centers are built on the idea that HUD's true measure of success is not how many people you can get into your programs, but how many people you can lift out. And it's that succession planning, it's that thinking of what's next. Who do we help next to where we can continue that succession plan of, okay, we've got this family taken care of, now we can help their family. Then it spreads like gardening. You build a good foundation. Before you know it, you're feeding the community in what you guys do. You start showing these kids they're future leaders. I'm also being a Job Corps graduate myself. I think the biggest thing is how do you show these kids to be leaders, which means they need to learn to take care of themselves.
That's
and
right.
then before they can become parents, before they can become anything else, they have to become who they truly are. And I think what you guys are doing there is exactly what needs to do. They're hubs. They leverage local and private resources to bring in education, job training, financial literacy, mentoring. I think Compton. I mean, when people hear the word Compton, you've never been there. Compton's pretty cool. I mean, it's a very old. And you think about the history with what's gone through Compton and how many families are there. I mean, the old generations of families that are still there.
Exactly.
And that's pretty cool. I mean, to think that the residents themselves can build upon the 4 pillars of self-sufficiency, character, leadership, education, advancement, economic empowerment, or health and wellness. Those are all things that we as parents want to teach our kids to continue to do long after we're gone. So I know the one thing I'm proud to say is, though, on behalf of Secretary Carson, and I know he cares about this stuff deeply, is the fact that with this designation of Compton's NHS Center, what it does is it validates and verifies the sustainable communities that it's now a hub for the city of Compton. And kudos to you, Lori Gay, for your leadership on what you've done and your team and the kind of things that are going to bring to it. So rather than me talk about what you guys are going to offer, I think it's only fair that you talk about what you guys are going to offer, because as someone who grew up in the system, whether it's counseling, financial assistance, I won't go into too much more, but you guys are going to be there to help it. You got a beautiful center inside, lots of room for growth. And I think it's going to be something that's a legacy that's going to be long after you get more gray hair, or, like me, gray hair.
Mine's covered today.
So it's going to be something you can be proud of. And, those grandkids someday will come back and say, hey, look what my grandma did.
I hope so. Kids today, you never know, but we come from good stock. All of us, we're fortunate. And while you were in the system, foster care system, Chris, you were strengthening your resolve of what greatness looked like, right? And keeping the good, putting away the bad. And I think that, like I said, we all need more love in our space. And I've been fortunate to meet folks like you and the great team at HUD, Chris, over time. And we all have stories, right, of achievement and failure. But I think it's not looking in our rear view all the time that gives us some distinguishing element. It's looking ahead. And so what we did is take the worst of times that we were told Compton represented, and then said, what we're going to put forward is excellence. And that's what the Center for Sustainable Communities represents, and now designated as an Envision Center. As we look forward, we want excellence all the time. And it's our job to train young people what that looks like. And then they're going to blossom and springboard from us, because we'll be the old folks, and they'll bring new and fresh insights to that excellence window. We talk about it all the time in our work now, because it eliminates the weird stuff. What does excellence look like, right? And then it doesn't have to be my view or your view. It's about, you know it when you see it because it stands out. And we definitely believe that it's now framed as collective impact work, where we have someone walk into our center. And if they came in because they needed financial counseling, they were having trouble with their mortgage, but they also need some healthcare touch-ups, little check-ins, they can go to the health clinic that's coming and get that work done. If in fact they need their vision checked, they can get that done. If they have a small business idea that they want to test, but they don't want to put $5,000 on their credit card and find out it's no good, not the card, but the idea, they can sit with the Small Business Development Corp folks and for free get counseled, get a financial coach that helps them with a business plan. These are the things that matter for people so that they don't have to, when they have particularly limited incomes, run all over town to get the answers they need. And one of the best stories I can give is that we were one of the partners that wanted to add to the Envision Center was a group that assists kids with autism. And one of the ways they help is that they are doing vocal training and work around speech pathologies. And so they were trying to figure out if the center would work for them. And in the end, we figured out we were not at a timing space where they could add because the center's lobby was too big. And they said, this will disrupt our young kids with that particular challenge because there's too much stuff going on. It's too big an environment and it's going to help make them distracted and it'll cause them pain, Lori. So as you build the center out, call us back and we'll figure out how to create a very specific space for them where they are not challenged by 20 people walking into the place and all talking at the same time. And I would never have thought of that. I'm not smart enough to have a clue about any particular disability or what people need to achieve in certain health spaces. That's not my discipline. But what I learned from that was that I could adapt the center to accommodate and expand and explore a health opportunity. It's all about how we see it. I see it as an ability, not a disability. And we could make that happen at the center because our creative space was such that we said in 2021, we'll try to figure that out and create the right spaces with the right number of bathrooms and sinks and, pathology rooms that create opportunity for young children who need something different than what I thought having a bunch of music and an active lobby was the right thing. Well, guess what? That doesn't work for everybody, ding dang. I had to really talk to myself. And so it's great. And for us, that infinite space that the center provides while we're a little slow during the pandemic has nothing to do with what the future holds. And I think being able to join hands, right, with all the disciplines that make a neighborhood thrive is our work. And so we look forward to that. We're excited. And we laugh about it because we know there's so much greatness coming, right? And that our young people are going to have a chance to participate in that world of exploration. There's no limits for them. And that's the job. That's the legacy we leave, Chris, you and I, is that we're saying to them, the sky is really not your limit, but it's a beginning. So thank you. I want to see if you have some final comments you want to make as we're talking today about any of this.
I think the biggest thing is, we at HUD, especially, I'll say it again, Wayne and Lori, Pauline, Angela, there's so many people that try to make sure that things are getting done and make sure that we're supporting the people. So I know HUD appreciates and thanks the hard work that you guys have all done. And
yes, thank you.
And again, I want to say congratulations to you, but anytime you have any questions, make sure you call Lori Udit first. I'm sure she's laughing, but
I'm going to remember that.
She's a field office director, and she's very much waiting to take the reins, which she has been. So I know that she's a great addition, and she's looking forward to doing that. So in closing on my end, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and on behalf of Secretary Ben Carson. I applaud you. I applaud the Los Angeles County and the city of Compton as we celebrate the designation of Compton's NHS Center for Sustainable communities as a HUD Envision Center. So I congratulate you on the hard work you've done.
Thank you, Chris. And again, this has been Lori Gay with Chris Patterson, who's the regional administrator for Region 9 at HUD. And I joked with him about a big long title before, but he's a regular guy, and it's been just a pleasure. We're just getting started over here, Chris. So we look forward to many more great times together, and to the HUD team that Chris mentioned. We're grateful to you, and we look forward to the fun work we're going to have together in serving communities throughout the region, but certainly in Compton and surrounding neighborhoods. So best of all to you, Chris. We appreciate you, and thanks to the HUD team that's joined us on the phone today.
Thank you.
Care. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Take good care.
Bye.